Welcome in our next guest, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. And Kyle, I know you're off doing nothing now, just piddling around the house. Just kidding. What are you tracking, like high school baseball and right now, or what are you following most?
Not really. I mean, I don't really have I did a lot of track last spring. I've done some more track this spring. But it's a lot of sort of miscellaneous things. Had a story this morning on Braylon Mullins. Obviously, pretty big story. I mean, people are reading it, so I mean that's kind of. I do some recruiting. I don't. I'm honestly going to a lot of my son's recruiting. Not recruiting AAU stuff this spring, and I'm seeing some AAU. I'm not covering it every tournament or whatever, but yeah, it's sort of spring is sort of a miscellany. I'm doing a lot of Pacer stuff. Honestly, I've got game 3 and 4.
Really?
Rounds, the home games anyway. So. That's been fun, and that's normally what if they make the playoffs, I do help out quite a bit. So they just haven't made the playoffs in a while, so that's been fun.
Yeah, earlier in the show we were talking about, or I was lamenting about how stinking busy it has been after the tournament has ended. Normally it's been kind of a benchmark of when you could take a breath, from my standpoint, from our standpoint of what you do. It wasn't quite as hard. You didn't have all the games. You didn't have, every night something going on. But it's been worse ever since the tournament ended. It's been, I don't know that I've ever worked more. And it's been nonstop every weekend. AAU has been ridiculous. Indiana Elite is off the charts. You got Jalen Harrelson with EYBL, but Braylon Mullins, I've talked about him and his recruitment, that it is just skyrocketing right now. And this Indiana Elite continues to roll along as an undefeated team. That's not a one-man team by any stretch of the imagination. They are that's why they're so good. They are equally matched at virtually every position on that team. But Braylon Mullins has continued to shine. And that game last week, the first game in which Indiana Elite won this game by 50.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can have a team that's in that deal that's that bad. Or it was Indiana really that good, because they held them to 35 points while scoring 80. So it wasn't like the ball was getting walked up and down the floor, Kyle.
No, and yeah, I mean, and that's honestly, that's something I talked about with Braylon a little bit yesterday. Is that Friday night game, he goes out and shoots 6 for 6 from the 3-point line. Hubert Davis is sitting there watching, Malachi Moreno, and all of a sudden it's like, who's that guy? And then it's like, okay, and it's off. And I know Nate Oates from Alabama was there, and having a chance to sit down with Braylon yesterday, him and his dad and his high school coach, Luke Meredith, it's like, this is kind of the apex of, like, things are just exploding. They're getting texts and calls. Luke Meredith was telling me yesterday, he's on the phone with the Kansas assistant. It's kind of put in the story, but he kind of said, I don't normally answer phone from out of state numbers because it's, spam or whatever. And I've got to, he's changing that policy quickly. He's on the phone with the Kansas assistant, and all of a sudden he's got a Michigan State assistant calling in and leaving a voicemail. And it's like, man, it's been constant since, and it's just the timing of it is I asked, why is it happening right now? And I kind of know the answer, but it's just, people are seeing him for the first time. It's first evaluation period in person. And also the transfer portal is sort of, closed for the most part as far as people going to where they're going. So now it's like, okay, we're getting a first real look at this kid, and the 2025 class in a large aspect. And I'm, obviously there's been schools that have been, recruiting him, obviously IU included, and they went out of their way to say, hey, IU's, they've done a great job. It's not like this changes anything with them. But it has, and I kind of thought this might happen with Braylon, is it becomes a national recruitment, and we're there, and now the question is, does he, he's gonna visit these places. He's gonna visit UConn at the end of June. He's gonna visit Michigan. He's Michigan State. He's gonna visit. I assume he hasn't set anything yet, as far as I know, with Kansas, but I'm sure he's gonna get there. So Alabama. I'm sure he'll go to a football game at least this fall in Tennessee. So, the question I guess becomes is he really going to go that far from home? And I don't know. It's we'll see. I mean, obviously those programs can offer you a lot, and literally a lot. They can offer you a lot of money. So, that's kind of where we're at now too. So, it's interesting to me how this works. It explodes, and then, it becomes a different type of recruitment altogether. And that's kind of where he's at right now. He's kind of that team is great. Malachi Moreno's got so many great options. Trent Sisley, he's a great player too. But it seems like Braylon's the one right now that's kind of going to another level, as far as where he was and where he's at now. So just interesting.
Yeah, well, he just looks so smooth when he's out there playing. And like I wish I would have gotten to see that first game down in Texas, which he shot 6 of 6 behind the arc. I mean, that had to be impressive, but he shot 8 of 10 overall. I shot 80%. Mentioned earlier, it's like the freaking Pacers, breaking shooting records. That's pretty damn good. When you shoot at least 10 shots in a game and you shoot 80%, man, a post player, yeah, okay. That's not, you're from 2 or 3 feet hitting shots. That's one thing. We're not talking about that, man. We're talking about 6 freaking 3-pointers out of the 10. And then 2 other shots from some, maybe he drove, I don't know. But just his recruiting has turned into a bullet. Boom, it's going up high. And now, like you said, he's got to consider UConn, Michigan State, Kansas, Alabama, all these big names that are coming at him, which is incredible. With all of that, can you find yourself staying at home and going to, say, Indiana or Purdue, who has now gotten into the mix, which I also mentioned it, I find it funny that Purdue's gotten into the mix because, or is it him and Harrelson both? They don't have room for either of those if they're wanting Sisley as bad as they have recruited him, which I know that they have. But now it's like, okay, well, do we not recruit Sisley quite as hard and start recruiting one of these guys a little bit better? Because I don't know how much recruiting effort they put in on those two, to be honest with you.
Well, certainly Mullins. They've been recruiting Mullins, and I can't speak to knowing. And I know they've recruited Harrelson. I don't know to what extent necessarily. I haven't, I'm not sure where that has been. But they have recruited Mullins. They've been in Matt Painter's been there a lot. They just didn't have a situation where they could offer him until, for whatever reason now. So yeah, I don't know. Obviously IU has offered him longer ago and been more involved, I would say, to a large extent. Probably the opposite with Sisley a little bit, or at least more even with Sisley. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where that goes with Mullins for sure. I mean, his overall recruitment is just, I don't think I even met, North Carolina and Duke, once they, so it's just like all over the place. And with UConn winning back-to-back titles, how do you not go take a look and listen? It's just, it would be silly not to, so, I know people will be like, well, we've been recruiting him. Like, well, look, if you're in his position, why wouldn't you go take a look and just see if it's too far, see if it's even the campus, what that's like, or, all this stuff. Go to a football game and see what Alabama's like. If I had the opportunity, I would definitely do all that. So I don't think you can hold that against him. I don't think he's going to decide anything anyway until most likely the first week of practice is kind of what it sounds like tentatively. That's not set in stone or anything, but I think it's going to take a while, because I know, and honest, him and Sisley and Moreno, they want to get to IU, or they're hoping to set something up for visit together in the early fall. So
All
that's
three of
all.
them actually want to come together for an official visit.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. All three of them, that's what they're planning on doing and that's, so we'll see what happens with that. And, I'm always leery of when, he pretty much said this too, is, there's been some stuff out there about a package deal or whatever. I'm always skeptical of that ever working out. I've heard that a lot, and it just seems like that never it's just too hard, especially with three a lot of times. But hey, I mean, if that works for your program and you can do that, why wouldn't you do it? But so I think some of that chatter is a little bit, just early or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think those guys obviously like playing with each other, and I think that's helpful for a school like IU that's recruiting all three of them.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and thank you for enjoying our content and videos. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle so you don't miss out on anything, whether it's Indiana Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Colts, the Pacers, Indiana high school action, whatever's happening in sports. We're trying to bring it all to you, and make sure you don't miss out on a thing. Again, hit the subscribe button for us. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.